Welcome to The Divine Style with Gerlinda, Stella, personal stylist and spiritual mentor, and Alison, Maiden, psychic medium and metaphysical teacher. Each episode we share spiritual lessons to cultivate self-love and self-expression so you can become the best version of you. Welcome to the Divine Style podcast. Thanks for joining us for our episode. Now, we haven't been back for a little while, but thank you for waiting for us. So I appreciate your patience. We have been getting lots of messages and emails and all sorts of things saying, when is it back? When is it back?
It's nice that people are loving it, which is, it just shows how much people are needing to have information at the moment, which is going to lead us into what today is all about.
Definitely. All about changing the mindset with 3D versus 5D. And I think when it comes to change, everything is in constant flux. Everything's in constant change. And the one thing humans don't like is change.
Not at all.
We feel a sense of a loss of control.
Yeah, and I think too that, for a lot of people, change in the past has been bad.
Yeah.
And so they just associate any kind of disruption to their normal pattern as being, it's going to be bad.
It's going to be
automatically
unsafe.
going to be bad.
Yeah. And I guess, so when it comes to, we've got so many podcasts that we've already done. So we've got things on ascension, and some of these topics may sound familiar. So, but you can always refer back to previous podcasts. But when it comes to this 3D versus 5D, I mean, we hear a lot about this, and I guess for some listeners out there might not even know what that means or have heard that before. How would you describe it?
No, well, dimensions are something that people see as a structure or a hierarchy, if you like, of levels. So, for instance, if we say 3, that comes under 5, and then they go, well, where's 4? What's happened to 4? Isn't that next? And then we have 5. So we're all talking about going to the 5th dimension. So basically what it is it's a construct of energy. And when you're vibrating at a certain level, you will be within that construct of energy. And there's certain laws that apply to each dimension. So the laws that apply to the 3D are basically the law of cause and effect, which is that what you do comes back to you. Right? Karma. It's the wheel of karma. So what you're putting out there is going to come back to you. And of course, if that's positive, then fantastic. You're actually moving in the right direction to then be in the 5D, which is a learning dimension of great, capacity. So we can open our mind up to not only Earth, but also the cosmos, the universe, and a heap of other things that ordinarily wouldn't have entered our mind because we're so busy going over our old patterns in 3D.
Right. And so why do we skip over 4?
Well, 4D is actually it's the hologram. It keeps us in a cocoon, if you like, providing us with time and space, basically, to do the lessons that we need to do to keep repeating the old patterns. So it's almost like that we're going to break through that ceiling and break through into a new dimensional aspect of ourselves. So it doesn't mean we have to leave the planet to do that. We don't have to die to do that. We just need to understand that in a 5D thinking world, there is no limitations.
Right, and I guess people do love visuals. So, like, how would you imagine if you were thinking of a dimension? Do you imagine it like a globe, like an onion with lots of layers going out? Or how would you envision it or describe it?
I would actually put it more like you're a time traveller and you're moving into different spaces. So instead of vibrating in the 3rd dimension where your thinking is all negativity and heaviness and lessons and one thing after another, and is this ever going to end because of the same patterns repeating, in a 5D environment, you are lighter and you can see the joy and you can see the happiness in things, and you know that there's nothing going to end because it is endless. There's no time frames that we need to worry about so much. And we can have that here now. It's just a matter of thinking about things in a different way. And there's lots of people that have already ascended to the 5D thinking. And most of the spiritual teachers around the world now are saying that most people are actually questioning what's going on. Why do I feel differently? Why am I having these incredible dreams that I've never had before? Why am I searching out spiritual teachers? Why am I moving to meditation? Why can't I just go and sit and watch the TV and watch the reality shows and be happy with that? Because you know that that's not real anymore. That's not the reality that fits with your vibration any longer.
Right, so this brings us back to that original thing, that it's the mindset. So it's a shift in mindset more so than, even though we talk about energy is everything, and that mindset has energy to it, but there's been a big shift in current times that more people are moving to this 5D type thinking.
And it's all around us, and any time you can tap into it. But the problem is that whilst the Earth is moving between 3D and 5D, which we still currently are, which is hence, by the way, we're having all the earthquakes and all of the things happening here, because there's been a change of energy on our planet, and we're shaking free, if you like, a bit like a dog that's just got wet and he's shaking all the water off of him, and a few fleas are flying off and that sort of thing. So we're shaking off some of those negative patterns and things on our planet. And so when we're coming through the change, there'll be big changes in the way that the planet is working. So there's more freedom for people. There's going to be more work, but in a way that you want to work, not necessarily working in a slave environment, but working because you're enjoying it. And there's going to be plenty for everybody in a 5D reality. So in other words, we're no longer working for money, but we're working for love of doing good things around us and having enough of everything. It doesn't make people lazy. It's actually quite the opposite. We were talking about this before, saying how if we didn't have to work, we'd still work.
Yes, because we love it.
There's no way that I would ever give up what I do, even if I had which I don't, millions of dollars in the bank. I would not give up what I'm doing, because it's my life purpose. It's why I was put here. And so that's how the mentality will be for you. It's like, this is my life purpose. This is what gives me purpose. This is why I'm here. And that's the mentality that a lot of people are now coming into, thinking that this third dimensional world, this job I'm doing has no purpose. What is my purpose here? This is not what I'm meant to be doing. I am not meant to wake up in the morning, work for money, go home and like die at night because I'm so exhausted. It's like, where is the joy?
Right. So part of knowing that you're kind of awakening to this 5D presence is sort of that, like you said, you start to question. So would that be one aspect of knowing that you're sort of in
That's one of the first things that starts to happen, actually. You start to really question your life, who you're hanging around with, your whole being in itself is changing. So as your vibration lifts, your entire body starts to change, and your cells start vibrating at a higher level as well. So things can also happen to you, like odd pains and blocked energy that might have been from like hundreds of years ago that's being stored in your family DNA needs to be released. So, you may have confrontations with people that you never thought would happen, to release that energy. Or if you're more spiritual in nature, you might go and heal it, so you don't have to have the confrontation. But you just will be releasing things at a much deeper level, at a cellular level. All right, so when we start doing things like that, our DNA is starting to change as well, and we are being healed. So when you are healing, you're also healing your ancestors and anyone that might come after you. So your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will not have to carry that pain with them. And so the future generations will all think differently, because we're no longer carrying that cycle of pain that was the 3D environment of the patterns of going around and around.
Okay, so at the moment it's sort of that questioning, and then getting some pains or aches and pains or things showing up in your body, or relationships shifting.
Yeah.
So it's this change. I mean, it's interesting that we said about the change of mindset, but that means that there's change in all aspects of your life. So you're thinking, the way that you do things, the job that you have, the friends you hang out with, and so how do we, I guess, being in the spiritual community, it's really interesting when you listen to the way people talk, and often people will be like, oh, that person's so 3D, and it actually, I mean, we talked about spiritual ego in another session, but when someone's trying to put themselves above someone else in that regard, but when someone's sort of referring to that, like something so 3D, so you think of it more of a mindset, so somebody's just thinking.
People in the 5D tend not to worry about what people in 3D are doing.
So that person's probably still in the 3D.
They're transitioning. So you can move in between energies for quite a while before you sort of have to be able to let go of all the material stuff and not have to worry about that anymore. And certainly whilst we are doing that, and most teachers actually move between 3D and 5D because we have to be able to relate to people. Otherwise, if we're constantly in the 5D, we can't relate to what people are going through at all. So if you're on that path and you've been thinking to yourself you're slipping, it's not necessarily the case. You might know exactly what 5D is about and understand that kind of thinking and want to live that lifestyle, but your job may not actually allow you to, because you actually have to keep coming back down to that level to be able to relate. And I think we've had this conversation before, where the last few years it's been harder and harder for me to relate to what people are going through on a 3D level, and I really have to bring myself to a point where I'm understanding that more, and it's part of my role to do that. So, you know, but I'll give you for instance. So when my beautiful brother Jeff, I love him because I still, you know, have contact and connection with all of my loved ones that have passed. I'm very fortunate for that. But Jeff was my favourite brother for a long time when I was younger. He was the fun one, right? And he was always funny and always sort of cracking jokes and things like that. So he was the fun brother. He recently passed, just going just over a year ago. And I, at the time, he asked me to be at his bedside, which I went down there and I did that. And down there meaning I had to travel down to Adelaide.
He didn't go to hell.
No, well, no, I don't think so. I think no, he didn't. And as I was sitting there with him and, you know, like having a chat, holding his hand, etc., he had cancer and he was on morphine, and it was really quite not a pleasant transition for him. I did not feel sad. And that was a surprise to my brain.
Yes, because your brain sort of like, you should be grieving. And
my brain was saying, hey, you should be crying, you should be grieving. I didn't feel sad. I felt joy. I felt joy for him that he was being released from the body that was no longer working for him. I also felt joy that I could see my mother and my other brother in the room and ready to receive him.
Goosebumps. I'm loving that. That's beautiful.
And it was just such a complete understanding of the fact that life is only not permanent in the physical, and it just continues on. And in our light bodies, when we move to the spiritual, when we move to the 5D, death is no longer going to be a huge issue for us. It will be a transition if we choose, but we'll be able to continue on, and our bodies will be able to repair themselves the way that they were designed to before they were interfered with. That's a whole other podcast. But it's such a much better place to be, and you don't have that same connection to the grief that you used to have, you know, and that's something I can honestly say was a big surprise to me when that happened.
That's huge, especially I mean, with, you know, being a psychic medium myself and working closely with you, we do deal with grief on a daily basis with people that are grieving and going through that. So yes. it would have been a huge shock. I can remember, actually it was probably years ago now, I remember sitting with you at a cafe and we were talking about 3D and 5D, and you said to me, and this was before I knew, you know, my gifts, or was awoken to my gifts as in mediumship. You said it will be like we're sitting at this cafe and your nan and my mother, and we'll all just be here and it won't feel any different. And it's really interesting doing this work because I do feel like that often. I'm like, they're right there with me.
Yeah.
And so the more of us that are really connecting in with our ancestors and spirit in general in terms of spirituality, you do lift up to that level.
Definitely. And of course 5D is so much closer to 6D, which is where the spirit world is, and so the veil is very thin, you know, that you're able to get there. And people often say to me, why can't I feel my mother? I felt her when she first went over. Why can't I feel her now? Because the longer you go in the physical, the more stuff gets stuck on you, you know, the more negativity, the more grief, the more mourning you're going through. It's like a big thick blanket around you, and it really stops the connection for them. They're still trying to get through. It's just that you got to clear the way for them to do that. And there's various ways we can do that. I mean, healing's one of them, but understanding that, you know, in the different dimensional fields, everything is vibration. So we have to move up in order to connect. So you've got to constantly be thinking in that 5D mentality, not going through the, why is this happening to me? The victim stuff, that's all 3D mentality.
Yeah.
You start releasing material things. You don't need the material stuff anymore. It doesn't become, you don't need the latest fashion or the latest this or the latest that. You know, it's okay to wear sensible shoes. You're not going to be like seriously worried about that. You're also going to start to get a lot of physical changes in your body as well. And a lot of the spiritual people have been saying to me lately, which is really quite funny because I was wondering this myself, why are spiritual people putting on weight? This is something...
Me too, I'm included.
This is just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there is like physical weight going on our bodies, and it's a protection mechanism for the energies that are changing and that are out there at the moment. And as soon as we are through that, the weight's going to drop off. It'll just drop off. Don't worry, guys. You're not going crazy. Okay. Actually, just a side note, one of my students who actually works in a weight loss clinic, she's a PT, she said that a good, like, over half of her clients, she sent off to doctors and things because everything they try, the weight is not budging.
Not working.
And I said, I think this is a spiritual problem. So, you know, when you are trying to protect yourself from these harsh energies and the vibration's already high, you can actually feel quite threatened sometimes being in the lower vibrational energies. It feels like you're being oppressed or attacked in some way. Being around harsh people who are angry all the time or destructive in their way, it's like a machine gun firing at you. So of course you're going to have a buffer of some kind. So it's your armor.
Create a physical boundary,
barrier.
A barrier. And it is interesting too that when you are sort of recognizing the 3D or that 3D thinking, it can be very frustrating when you are going in and out, because then you start to become the witness of what's going on, as opposed to before when you're in it, it actually feels easier because you sort of like feel like everybody's like you. I remember through my own awakening, I remember sitting at a dinner table and everybody was just so negative, and I thought, if I'm going to be part of this conversation, I'm going to have to talk like them too. And
it drops you down.
I dropped down, and I did, and then I was able to converse, but I still felt very removed from that situation, and I didn't enjoy going out for a while. Now I'm back. I'm okay. But
yeah, I think you can sometimes hold the vibration for yourself and not get maybe involved in their criticisms, but just sit back and be an observer in that. It takes a bit of practice, mind you, to get to that point. But yeah, look, not going out, not socializing, that's a big flag, if you like, of becoming more aware of the 5D energy. And you want to be around more like-minded people as well. You see through lies very quickly. And unfortunately on our planet there's a bit of that going on. So, you know, I mean, there's been a lot of things that people are starting to awaken to, a lot of the things that for years they thought was normal. They're starting to look at it going, hang on a minute, that doesn't make sense to me anymore. That's when you know you're spiritually awakening, because you're no longer under the spell of the law of cause and effect where you're going through these patterns. You're actually breaking free of that, and you can make decisions for yourself, and you're able to see it clearly about the direction you want to take next.
And that's a good point, because sometimes, like we were just talking about, feeling dragged down, because then you do fall back into that feeling sort of controlled or having to fit in or making yourself smaller in order to keep the peace and not sort of shine that light or be that bright. Because often when you are in that state, it can actually repel people, because it's like, why are you so happy? What have you got to be happy about? Because they're still thinking the world's such a terrible place.
Yeah, and so you can help people, but don't get pulled down into that rabbit hole again. You know, you've got to have a balance. There's got to be a balance. If you're working in this arena and it is your job to help people into the light, then you're going to be given opportunities to have the balance in your life. So you'll be surrounded by people that can help you, healers, different things, different modalities you can try. Reiki is, of course, the one that is my go-to. I find that it not only is a great healer for myself, but also it's a great tool to use to raise a vibration really quickly if I need to, particularly in rooms and things like that. You'll also find it can repel people as well, because they're not liking the energy of love.
Yes.
Okay, so they'll just move out of there automatically.
And that's it. It works in that way too. That if you do feel like people are if you are raising up and you are feeling like people are pulling back, don't feel like you've got to drop back to that level.
No, you can just, and the thing is, if people really want to change or they want to make the change around you, I find a lot of my clients, and particularly some of my students, say, I'm frightened about leaving people behind. And do you know what? There's nothing we can do about other people. We have to take care of ourselves, and then hope that with our joy and happiness and our energy, they look at that and go, I want some of that. help me find what you found, you know. So you lead by example. Normally, if we're starting to heal those things within us, it'll have a rippling effect on people around us anyway.
I've noticed that big time.
Particularly in families or anyone that you're really like connected to on a spiritual family level as well, like a soulmate. You don't necessarily have to be blood related to people to be, you know, to benefit from you doing the healing, and then they benefit from it as well.
Because you start, you become that magnet for like-mindedness, and then you'll pull in the right people. I mean, that's how we met. So once you start raising your vibration to the level and mindset where you want to be, the right people do end up coming into your life.
And there's nothing ever by accident. The spirit will always place you in front of the person that you need. And don't ever feel bad if you know you need to be with someone for a particular amount of time and then it's time to move on, because that's just the way it is. You know, you need to be able to grow, and you always have to do it. And if a teacher wants to hang on to you, they're not in the 5D mentality. They're still in the ego. You know?
And vice versa. I think sometimes we use spiritual mentors or people as almost like a crutch to like hang on to, and we don't want to let go. And if they're in that mentality too, sometimes they're keeping you there. So really important to sort of know that everything comes back to self, doesn't it? It's really about you questioning what's in this for me. How am I working through it? Am I healing? Am I growing? That's a good one to know. If you're stuck,
the thing is, if you need something, it's probably not that healthy. You know, if you need someone's energy, if you need that connection with them, it goes past sometimes that feeling of, I've got to be with you for a certain lesson or learning or whatever it might be. When you've had that and you're still needing them all the time because you're lacking something in yourself, then that's something you need to look at. And this is how we have to judge our vibrational field. So if I'm feeling needy on any particular day, I'm like, okay, what's going on here with me? What do I need to feel? What do I have to do to fill my own cup so that then I can move forward and have people in my life as lovely additions to my life, not necessarily needing them to be there and putting the onus on them for responsibility toward me, because that's creating more karma.
Very true. And the opposite, and that like attracts like too. So if you're sort of feeling needy, you might find that there's needy people around you yourself. I know I have a couple. I'm still trying to shake them. It is what it is, but I do think it comes back to self-responsibility, and that's usually where I sort of point them in that direction, that I'm not, you can't keep coming to me for this, you've got to look at yourself.
I think some of the first awakenings that happen is how people will drop off in your life. How you just, all of a sudden you'll look around you and think, I'm in a completely different group here, completely different friendship group. Some people will still be there, of course, if you're married to them, or if you gave birth to them, or
or you were birthed by them. Often you're still there.
They're still there. But you'll find that the majority of your life, you won't be affected by those people anymore. So if their lessons and negativity are still there, you can rise above that and just go, do you know what? It's not affecting me. Lovely, you get on with that.
Yes, that's your stuff, not my stuff.
Not my stuff. And then you can, as I said before, lead by example. If they see you going, hey, I'm feeling so much better about myself now, they may want to know what you did, what's your secret. And that's all part and parcel. I think we're all learning, and I think everybody is a teacher at some level, and we're all students at some level. So it's just
very true.
It's just a matter of actually being aware of vibrationally where you're sitting. If you're feeling that you are totally negative all the time, you're angry all the time, firstly, look at where the moon is. That damn thing. At the moment, we're sitting in a big energy. We have a Leo full moon, and so everyone who's sensitive is feeling the anger. And yesterday, I could have killed somebody yesterday. I mean, they're all keeping out of my way. I locked myself in the office. I was like, that would be really bad karma. So, but I was aware that it was the energy I was feeling, and so I did some work on myself. I actually listened to some light language meditations. I was in a different space after that. I was able to lift myself out of it. So it's awareness. knowing that you can change it at any given time. You don't have to be the victim to the energy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And having the tools to be able to do that, so education, workshops, going along to really good workshops like we have here at Kindred Spirit.
They're fantastic.
And we actually do webinars now for people, so we can reach people all over the place with these workshops. But one of the things that I've always found is education is the key. So knowledge is power. Once you understand what's happening to you, you can then apply something to change that if you want to, or to enhance it if that's what you need to do, right? And I suppose the only other thing too about the ascension is just understand that it is going to end at some point. It's not going to go on forever like this, because people often say to me, how much longer do we have to suffer through this? If you're suffering, it's because you're not realising why it's happening. It's happening for the good. It's not happening to punish you.
Yes.
Right? And all change is hard.
All change is very difficult, and just sitting with that knowledge and like I said, becoming present, becoming aware, knowing what's going on, using modalities such as Reiki. I mean, it's been phenomenal for my personal spiritual growth, knowing the vibration, knowing how to shift and move in my vibration, and being able to do it very quickly too, not sort of having to sort of sit and suffer for, days and days on end. You might have a bad day, but a sleep and some even self-Reiki is phenomenal, but going and getting a good healer is also really good. What are some other ways people can sort of help to keep their vibration up, do you think?
Well, it's things like understanding that everything has a vibration. So it could be as simple as lighting a candle, bringing in, because when we light a candle, we bring in spirit, we bring in angels, and so it immediately lifts the vibration. That's why churches are full of candles, right?
And then, pagan tradition.
Yeah, it is a pagan, but everything is connected. That's the thing. Everything on this planet is connected.
They knew it was good.
The Christmas tree is a pagan tradition. Anyway, that's another podcast again. So once we actually have a bit of an idea, I suppose, on what works for us, we go to that. So personally, what works for me, I will go out into nature. I'll take my shoes off, I'll go and stand out in nature, and I'll walk in the sea, or I'll walk in the creeks, and I'll just let the water wash over me. And water is a wonderful tool.
Oh, isn't it great?
Not only in swimming, but also even showering. If you can't get out into nature, just having a shower and letting the water run over you, that's enough to clear you. If you can't get in the shower, wash your hands up to the wrists. It actually clears energy. Okay, so it clears off the energy from before. Using tools like crystals, wearing them in your auric field, orgons, amazing. These bracelets are, honestly, we can't rave enough about these things. They're made by Orgon Bracelets, Amber Robinson. She's actually going to come onto our podcast very soon to explain how they work. But this has been a lifesaver for me, particularly with the 5G energies and other EMF energies that affect me because I'm so sensitive. Headaches have gone since I've been wearing my bracelets. I even wear them to bed now when I sleep.
Fantastic.
I have to, otherwise bad dreams and things. But when I've got them on, I'm fine. So your auric field is very sensitive to changes around you. And we've got all sorts of things being fired at us. We've got, microwaves, we've got telephone waves, we've got, I don't know what they're called, but anyways, EMF, all the waves, right? So all that's going through, it's affecting your antennas, it's affecting your brain, it's affecting the way you think, and probably by design, to be quite honest. But, if you can actually shut that out for 5 minutes and get back to nature, big deal. That's a huge one. The other thing is having Reiki healings, raising the vibration there, but aromatherapy.
Oh, beautiful.
Because the aromatherapy oils actually hold a vibration. Okay, so if you're having those oils around you, you can actually raise your own vibration just by smelling them. Like, it will bring you up, right? It's like smelling a pretty flower.
Beautiful.
Okay?
Yeah.
We can use colour, we can use all sorts of different things that have vibrations. Sound vibrations like solfeggio frequencies that are playing beautiful music. Look, there's multiple things. If people want to know more about this stuff, I actually have got a new workshop that's just being released. It's the Psychic Development Workshop, but I include all of these things in that one. In fact, we're just on week 2 tonight,
Fabulous.
but they are being recorded, so you can buy them afterwards.
Excellent. That's very exciting. Yeah, so all of our listeners will have access to those courses. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So now, so we can use, like you said, energies in everything, the vibrations in anything. So our thoughts, how do you feel that these, obviously our thoughts affect our emotions. And so if we're we're going to know that we're getting pulled back down by what we're feeling in terms of our emotional bodies.
Yeah, just a couple of different things there. Firstly, I'd probably go to the old patterns that haven't cleared. So they're old emotions that are trapped and need to be cleared. And
in this karmic cycle?
Yeah, it can be from past lives.
Yep.
It can be from your present life DNA family strain.
Yep.
So, if grandma had depression, mum had depression, you may have depression, it can actually come from a family line of something that happened back then.
Yeah.
So, healing those things is vitally important. That's really important. And then just changing the way you think about things is like 1,000%. You have to stop yourself from thinking the same old thoughts.
Definitely.
You've got to catch yourself out on this. If you're looking in the mirror and you're going, oh, I'm so fat, I don't fit into any of my clothes, I'm so depressed, what's that actually telling you? You're not loving yourself at all. And your poor old body that's really trying to struggle in this world,
it's doing its best,
is going to feel achy and tired and just not happy. Whereas if you start telling yourself, start with one thing. Your eyes are the window to the soul. Look into your eyes and think how beautiful they are. Maybe you like the shape of your nose or your mouth, or you like the shape of your face, or you like your boobs. I don't know, whatever it might be that you like about yourself. Start with something small and then build from there. And then actually tell your body how much you're appreciating it, how much you love it, and you'll find your body will respond very quickly. Because what it's doing is it's actually feeding a part of your soul that isn't actually identifying. It's the physical aspect of your soul. And our soul is connected to physical, and then it's connected to the essence, which is basically the aura. And then we're connected to the astral body, which is the twin that goes out and travels out at night time, when you have dreams where you're flying and that sort of thing. Your soul doesn't leave your body, but you have a twin that sits in your auric field and does that for you. And
Thank goodness, so I can stay inside at night.
And then your soul actually moves up to higher and higher levels. So your higher self, your essence self, your goddess or god self. And so your soul has got all these different aspects to it, but your physical self also has an aspect. And if you don't love that, then you're not going to find love on any other level. Not true love anyway.
So true. I'm so... gosh, it's just imperative. I preach this to the hilltops that we come to acceptance, we come to gratitude, and then we come to self-love, and it feeds in on itself. And that's definitely the 5D reality that I want to live in.
Absolutely. If you're finding it really hard to change your mindset about things, and you're finding it's just impossible for you to do so, you can also do more physical things like tapping. EFT is a great tool.
Journaling, get it out.
Journaling. Hypnotherapy. Fantastic tool to be able to change your mindset. And so there's we can recommend Craig Hominy, of course, and we want to get Craig back on the show. He's telling me he's going to be coming back on the show. So there's other things that you can do, but whatever fits with you, and just awareness.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about. Be aware and own it.
Yes, and well done. We will see you in the 5D.
Oh yeah.
Thanks so much for watching and listening our Divine podcast today, our Divine Style podcast. We look forward to connecting with you all again soon. Thanks for listening to The Divine Style with Gerlinda, Stella and Alison Maiden. You can ask questions or find out more at gerlinda.com.au or alisonmaiden.com.